Hello and welcome to week 4 of Novi's Weekly Workflow. I'm Scott Easton and thanks for joining. So today I have loaded up a scenario from a midstream group. So the idea is, how do I get my hands around what supply looks like today and into the future of a particular area? So I'm using the New Mexico side of the Delaware Basin here, and I have all of the production broken up into the years that the wells first produced. So I can get a sense for how much production is coming from younger wells versus older wells. But in this case, let's take a look at who I might be signing some contracts with. So this is the operator's relative share of current production coming out of this area. And one of the people that I follow from their earnings calls is Devon. And so Devon has a really great footprint around here. But the biggest thing that struck me was they're spending about 60% of their capital budget on the New Mexico side of the Delaware. So in their earnings calls, they were very explicit about improvements in percentage of lateral foot drilled and completed. They also wound up breaking out kind of what a year-over-year production growth was per well. And then lastly, they went ahead and suggested a 10% improvement in 23 versus 24. So how do I make heads and tails of this? I'm going to load up our supply projections. So looking at the Delaware side of the Permian, I'm going to further narrow it down to just New Mexico. And I'll see by county, what the relative share of horizontal rigs are, as well as what the gas production looks like, kind of extrapolating out into the future. And so a couple of questions that usually come up: what are some of the inputs that come into this? So rig efficiency is a big one. So over time, it looks like it used to be about 1.8 wells that were drilled per rig per month. Now we're down to about 1.5, which makes sense. Lateral lengths have spiked pretty drastically. The other aspect is, well completions. So after I drill, how many completions are happening month over month? And you can see Eddy, staying a little bit flatter than, say, a Lee, where it's dropping a little bit. So the last thing is, of course, how do I get my type curve that I'm going to go ahead and apply? So these are the production profiles that we'll be using for this projection. I can alter the time period up here, but you can see if we were looking at oil, these two might actually flip. But Eddy's kind of leading the charge here. So having said that, let's take a look at how I can put my fingerprints over this and use some of those metrics that Devon gave me. So maybe I'm going to say, rigs are going to jump up about 2% in the near term. And then, monthly change of wells drilled per rig. I could use some of those percentages. I don't necessarily want to. Instead, I'm just going to use that 10% rise in well productivity. And you can see, instantly those changes have occurred, where I see my rig rate is actually jumping up based on my kind of 2% rise. And then you saw my production spike up quite a lot as well. So having said that, some really easy levers that I can pull. You can see I had it apply that from March to April here. And then I can also establish the second time period. So if I wanted it to be flat for a while, and then maybe, I think there's going to be some headwinds. So I'm going to change this to, maybe the end of the year. And I'd expect it to go negative here. So I can go in and I can create a number of different scenarios. When I'm comfortable with this, I can go ahead and pull out the image or just download it straight to Excel. So having said that, again, a really quick and easy way to not only see supply today, but also project it into the future and have some visibility into key inputs. So thanks again for the time. Looking forward to next time.